There's a second body cam video out on Gabby Petito, and we thought the first one was bad. This one is even way worse. The cops missed a ton of signs, and it just is really, really highlighting how bad they completely messed up and how much the system just really, really needs to change. And as a lawyer, I just feel like I just need to highlight it. And that's what I'm going to be doing in this video. So stay tuned. Hey there, I'm Rebecca Zung. I am a lawyer. I am a negotiation expert, and on these videos and on my platform here, I talk about narcissism, I talk about toxic relationships. And in this video specifically, I'm going to be talking about Gabby Petito and the signs that the cops missed, specifically in that second body cam video that was seriously just released. I'm not really quite sure why it was just released. And so I do invite you to subscribe to this channel. I really focus mostly on negotiation, specifically narcissist negotiation, and how to shift the dynamic in all aspects of your life so that you can feel more powerful. Real tips and tricks. I am the only lawyer on the planet that is actually giving you real resources on how to actually shift the dynamic so that you are on the offensive in dealing with narcissists, so that you can actually finally come out unscathed and winning your negotiations. Okay, so let's talk about going back to August 12th. I have a couple of videos actually on this Gabby Petito situation, on what could have driven Brian to potentially murder Gabby. I understand that it's alleged at this point, but I don't know that anybody else would have had a motive to murder her. So I do have a whole video on that situation and another video as well, which you are certainly welcome to check out. So anyway, I do want to have a trigger warning with regard to anybody who is dealing in a domestic violence situation. And I do want to say this is not meant to, I'm not like anti-cop or anything like that, but I do want to say that there is certainly a huge amount of signs that they miss. As a lawyer myself who did practice in the area of family law, this is certainly an area where cops are not trained. This is certainly an area where the domestic violence laws are very, very lacking. And I'm sorry, but this is still a very misogynistic system. It just is. And in this particular instance, many signs were missed in this situation, and it cost Gabby Petito her life. For those of us who have a voice, for those of us who have a platform, for those of us who have been in this system, like me, and have an opportunity to speak up, I feel like we have like almost a duty to do so. And that's why I'm doing this now. So we see this video. It's August 12th, and we know that within a couple of weeks, she was found dead. So heartbreaking. I have a daughter who's almost the same age. My daughter's 19, and I look at this beautiful girl, and it's so heartbreaking. It makes me literally want to cry. And so perhaps we can prevent this from happening to other girls like this in the future, or anybody who's in a domestic violence situation. I have actually seen men in this situation too. So if we can prevent this in the future, then I think it's really important that we do so. So we look at this body cam, and where this picks up is she's already in the back of the cop car. So for any of you who have seen the first body cam video, which and I talked about that one in one of my other videos, that one was where they had just pulled up to the car. This one, she's already in the back of the cop car. So they'd come already to the van, they pulled her out of the van, They had her sit in the back of the cop car. So in this particular body cam footage, she's already in the back of the cop car when it starts. And again, here's one of the signs that they miss. She's constantly apologizing, constantly blaming herself. Everything is her fault. It's all my fault. It's because I'm OCD. She's worried about the consequences. She's worried about what's going to happen when they get back in that van. And I talked about this in one of my other videos, by the way, these red flags. She's worried about when they get back into that van and the cops are gone, where he's going to go, this is all your fault. You caused this. And what's going to happen then? Is it going to be physical abuse? Is it going to be emotional abuse? Is it going to be him yelling? Whatever it's going to be. She doesn't want to have to deal with that. And so she's blaming it all on herself. She's crying. She's scared. Contrast that with how he's acting over there. He's shooting the breeze. He's laughing it up. It's the bro club over there with him. Ha, 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 ha. She's like crying and scared, blaming herself. Not once do you see him taking any of the blame for what's going on with this situation with the two of them. Not once do you see him say, we got into an argument. We had an altercation. The two of us were having a fight. No, he blames it all on her too. She this, she that. It was all her fault. When the cops are blaming her, he's going right along with it. Yep, it's her. She's taking it all on herself. He's allowing it to happen. Major red flags. Do the cops say at all, hey, wasn't it you too? No, they never say that to him. They never even question the fact that she's taking it all on herself. Massive, huge red flag that they miss. She's crying. She's scared. They never say, hey, why are you scared? Don't even ask her about that. Massive, huge red flag that they miss. Second, she says he locked me out of the van. They don't even ask her about that. They don't ask her about the fact that, hey, why did he lock you out of the van? Super hot outside. They don't ask her about whether or not that's a pattern of behavior. They don't ask her how long she was locked out of the van. This is not a car that, they have a home somewhere. This is their home, right? It's like in the middle of the desert. And it's, who the heck knows how hot it is out there. I know that they were talking about the heat and, who knows. But how long has this been? Is this a pattern of behavior? Oh, and by the way, not once do they even check the registration to find out that it's her van. She owns it. He's locking her out of her own van. And she's blaming herself. Oh, he locked me out of the van. Oh, it's because of my OCD. They don't even question that. Why is he locking you out of the van? They don't ask her about that. They don't say, why is he doing that? That seems abusive. That just is okay with them. That's a huge red flag that they miss as well. The next thing that they miss is the fact that she's got marks on her. They even ask her about it. Her right arm is red. The cops know, by the way, that the whole reason that they are there in the first place is that one of the witnesses that called 911 saw her being slapped. And you can listen to the 911 call. Anybody can find it online. A man is hitting a woman. I see him slapping her. That was one of the 911 calls that was made. Apparently there was more than one. She's being slapped. A man is slapping her. Violent behavior is happening. He got a red arm. Okay. They're asking her the questions about the marks on her. She's got marks on it. She says, yeah, he hit me. And she does say, yeah, we were hitting each other. She tries to take some of the blame on herself. She's crying. But then what does she say in this second video? She talks about how he grabbed her face That is violent behavior. Grabbing a face, grabbed her face, grabbed her face, grabbed her cheeks. Like that is violent behavior. Could have been the neck. Grabs her face, grabs her face. She said her face is still burning. They don't really, get into that at all. Like that's like a massive, huge thing, a violent gesture. Now, Brian had scratches on him. They ask him about scratches, which, by the way, are normally defensive wounds. And by the way, they took pictures of his scratches and took pictures of his marks. They did not even bother to take pictures of her marks. They never call EMS. They never have either of them checked out or anything like that. She's taking all the blame on herself. Then they start interrogating her. Are you normally a patient person? Like they're very condescending with her. They're asking her about her anxiety. And the cop, by the way, as soon as she starts talking about her anxiety in this video, this one particular cop starts tying it to the fact that his ex-wife also had anxiety. And as soon as she talks about anxiety, he's like, yeah, my ex-wife had anxiety. And he kind of zones out. He ties it to the fact that his ex-wife had anxiety. To him, it's like she is this histrionic, whatever. The conversation's basically done right after that. He misses completely her body language. She's scared to death. She's making herself small. She's not even asking about the fact, why does she have such anxiety? Where is that coming from? Why is she so scared? Is the anxiety from the fact that he may be perpetrating domestic violence on her? How many times has he ever grabbed her face before? Has he ever touched her before? How many times has he locked her out? Is there a pattern of abuse? Never asks her anything about that. Nothing about that at all. Goes over then to talk to him after this. As soon as she talks about anxiety, ties it to the ex-wife, he's done having the conversation. Goes over to talk to him, speaks to him for a very brief amount of time, laughing it up. They're chuckling, shooting the breeze. It's like a fraternity, blah, 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 ha, ha, ha. Doesn't ask him about the grabbing of the face. Nothing. Doesn't really ask him anything about any of it. Talks about the scratches, basically has already decided that he's the victim of domestic violence, has already decided. Confirmation. He wants confirmation bias. Basically, he's already decided, this cop, that Brian is the victim. She's the aggressor. Now he wants proof of that. So he calls up one of the witnesses who called 911. He does not call the one who says he saw her being slapped by him. Doesn't call that one. Calls the other witness who called in. Apparently, this witness saw some shoving of some sort. This witness says, I saw some shoving, I saw some pushing, I may have seen her push him. I can't really confirm who was pushing who first. Looked like she may have been pushing him. It kind of looked like he was trying to get her cell phone. That was sort of what it looked like was going on. They were kind of squabbling over the phone. That was sort of, what I saw. I didn't see a hit. This is what I saw. He gets off the phone with this witness. He goes back out to the other cops and to Brian in the situation. And he says, so the witness never saw anything really. The witness says it was unclear. He goes back over to the other cops and says, witness said she was the primary aggressor. Witness said it was unclear. But this is what the cop said that the witness said. She was the primary aggressor. That's not what the witness said, but this is what the cop said. By the way, still nobody's asked for the registration to confirm that she owns a van. Then the cop even says things like there's been an injury to the victim, which is him. This is the language that he's using. He's decided he's the victim. Then they go into having this whole conversation with Brian outside while she's sitting in the cop car, crying and scared, not knowing what's going on. They proceed to have a whole conversation with Brian about what he can do now that he's the victim. It is unbelievable. You can get a no contact order, and then she'll have to appear in court. She may have to get a lawyer. And if this no contact order gets in place, Brian, you'll be able to contact her. But if she responds back to you, she'll be violated and then she'll go to jail. And Brian's like sort of laughing it up, like, wow. And he's smiling and he's laughing. And you know why? Because he knows that he has gotten away with it. He has fully beaten the system. Everybody has been fooled. He knows that he's over there crying and scared. He's got all his bros totally believing that he is the victim of domestic violence. Everybody believes him. Nobody believes her. And guess what? I am quite sure that when they got back in that van later on down the road, whenever she acted up afterwards, he probably said, honey, no one's coming for you. They all believe me. And I'm sure at that point, she felt totally trapped, like, no one is ever going to believe me. I will never be able to get any help from anyone. See how that happened? Because they completely missed the signs. Because nobody ever thought to say to her, hey, are you maybe a victim of domestic violence too? Let me take a look at your marks. Maybe we should have a conversation about whether or not you also may be a victim of domestic violence. Maybe it's at least mutual. Oh no. They're having this whole conversation. And then let's see how it even gets worse. If you're mad now, wait until it gets worse. Hold on, stick with me, because it actually gets worse. Yeah, it does. It does. They actually now go back over to the cop car. She's actually finally calmed down a little bit. Cop goes back over to her, and why they decide to scare the crap out of her, I'm not sure, because ultimately all they ended up doing was just separate them. But they just decide to scare the crap out of her and say, hey, here's what we could do. We can put a no contact order in place, and if we do this and you violate it, you can go to jail, and we're going to separate you. And here's another red flag that they miss. She doesn't want to be away from him. We're a team. I don't want to be away from him. She wants to stay with him. You know what that is? That is trauma bonding. Another huge sign that they missed. These people, this system, these cops, they need to be trained. They need to be trained on the signs of domestic violence, on the signs that somebody is in a relationship that is not healthy, that is not serving them, in a relationship where somebody may be being abused. That's what they need, so that these cops can see the signs and pull the Gabby Petitos of the world aside and have a conversation that says, hey, are you in a situation that maybe you need help? Can we help you in some way? Can we maybe get you to a place where you can be checked out? You know, it may have saved her life. No, that is not what happened. That is not what happened. Not only does he scare her and say these things, let me tell you what he says next. He goes back over and he says, before I even say this, let me tell you, one of the things he says to Brian is, he says, if we have you go spend the night in a hotel, will you trust her for the night with the van? And Brian laughs and says, yeah. Doesn't bother to mention, by the way, that it's her van. Brian, at no point does he say, well, it's her van. Nobody ever checked to see that it was her van, by the way. All right, going back to now the cops are back over there. Okay, they're scaring her. She's back to crying, scared to death. I don't want to be away from him. You know what the cop says then? Cop says, I know you're dealing with these struggles mentally and emotionally. I know you have this anxiety, but you're going to have to deal with this because your anxiety has caused all these problems. Totally blames everything on her. Like, wow. Wow. Seriously? Wow. He says, this is a result of your inability to cope with this. That is a quote. I wrote it down. It's just absolutely mind blowing. He says, witnesses says, you know, there's marks on him caused by you slapping him. I don't have anyone saying, you know, he slapped you. I mean, even though there is somebody, it's like the witness says that he shoved her first. He never even called the other witness. He only called the one. Never took into account what she said. Never took into account her marks. He just goes into this whole crap about doesn't even matter who's the male, female, who's like, it just matters who the primary aggressor is. Basically says that she's the primary aggressor. Oh, and then he goes into this whole thing about how Brian is like trying to work some deal for her, which is a total lie, by the way, because Brian wasn't doing crap for her. It's actually difficult to watch. Like if you thought the first one was hard to watch, this one is really, really difficult to watch. I felt like I really wanted to make this video because the cops missed a lot of signs. A lot of you guys out there who've asked me at times to say, hey, come forward, to say the system needs to change, that things need to change. You know, a lot of times I say, well, you know, this is the system. We need to work within the system. Here's how you can work within the system to present evidence to the courts, you know, and I teach you how to do that with the SLAY methodology, you know, and how to negotiate using the SLAY methodology within the system. That's not this. This is a system change that needs to be made with training these men who just completely missed the signs of a young girl who was crying and upset because she was in a relationship that was clearly abusive. And we know that it was because witnesses saw him slapping her. She said he grabbed her face. She had marks on her body and she was crying and upset, and she turned up dead 2 weeks later. Okay? What more do we need to know? This was an abusive relationship, period. This is a system that needs to change. We need to have training so that no more Gabby Petitos end up dead in this world. That is what I wanted to say. That is what I wanted to accomplish with this video. I'm Rebecca Zung, and thank you for listening. For those of you who would like to subscribe to this channel, and I invite you to do so. For those of you who do want a free negotiation worksheet, I do offer that at winmynegotiation.com. Thank you for listening. For those of you who are in an abusive relationship, I will be posting the National Abuse Hotline number down below. Please contact that if you are in an abusive relationship, or please get to the nearest shelter. I do have another video where I do talk about how to create a safe plan if you need to do that. please do so. Please do it safely. You know, I wish that this situation weren't happening for people, but if you do need to create a safe plan, then please do so. So thank you for listening, and I will definitely see you in the next video. I'm Rebecca Zung. Thank you.